Game 3 of the NBA Finals, the Mavs versus the Heat. The Heat won with a score of 86-88, and now the series is 2-1. Now, NBA history dictates how much of an important game this is for both teams. It's been circulating in Facebook and in Twitter, and quote, "The Game 3 winner in tied final series has gone on to win the championship all 11 times since the 2-3-2 format began in 1985. Now, history or not, each game is more important than the previous one because it tells you how much closer you are to the championship title, or now in the case of the Dallas Mavericks, one step further from the crown. Now, the Miami Heat dominated the first half by keeping the Dallas Mavericks at bay with a 29-22 scoring at the end of the first quarter. Just in the first quarter, the Miami Heat was able to shoot 16 points in the paint while the Dallas Mavericks only scored 2. Ang dami, diba? Dalawa lang. Now, at the end of the game, the Miami Heat was able to score 40 points in the paint while the Mavs only scored 22. These scores show that the Miami Heat drove to the basket rather than merely relying on jump shots, while Dallas obviously had a difficulty penetrating the defense of the Miami Heat. Now, we can't say that the Dallas Mavericks played poorly because statistically they played better than the Miami Heat. When you look at the stat sheets, Nowitzki scored a total of 34 points and had a total of 11 rebounds, a tie to Wade's 11 rebounds as well, and Kidd gave us 10 assists. Now, the Mavs were catching up on the second quarter as it neared its end when they tied at 22 points with only 1 minute left on the clock. But at the end, Miami managed to perform a 7-0 run for the rest of the period. Now, the second half started at the same pace. Miami had a 8-0 run, a very, very bad way to start for the Dallas Mavericks. But the Dallas Mavericks has a way of sprinting after the Miami Heat, and we all know that. We've seen this in their previous game. The Mavericks have proved that they have the ability to overtake the Miami Heat and actually win the game, just as how they did in the second game. Just when we thought that the Miami Heat had a second game in the bag, they were able to steal Game 2 from the Heat. And for a couple of times in the second half, everyone thought that they would do it all over again and that the Dallas might stir a comeback like how they did in the second game. In the third quarter, with only 5 minutes left on the clock, Chandler was able to rebound the ball. A very effortful one, as he had to dive to the floor just to keep the ball in possession. Then he had to pass it to Kidd, a run by Kidd, and he passed it to Marion, which ended up with a driving layup that scored a tie for the team, and they had a 57-point tie. Now, another picturesque example of that very stealthy comeback of the Mavs was in the fourth quarter when Dirk tied the game at 70 points in the middle of the fourth period with a three-pointer, and tied it yet again at 86 points with a minute 40 on the clock. Now, this sparked a hope for the Mavs fans, and obviously this pissed off most Heat fans because for a minute there, everyone thought they were gonna do a do-over of Game 2. But the beauty of the Big Three is that you always think it's gonna be LeBron or Wade doing the basket, so you forget about Bosh or whoever's trailing after them. With Dwayne Wade initially holding the ball and making a pass to LeBron in the final seconds of the game, these all happening at only one side of the court, everyone in the Mavericks was guarding the two except for Nowitzki. Nowitzki was left on the other side to be up against two Heat players, Bosh and Haslem. And instead of LeBron forcing a drive on their side of the court, he made a decision to pass the ball at the free side of the court where Bosh was standing. Now, this resulted to a three-pointer clutch shot, that shot that made the win for the Heat. Now, with the final possession on Dallas' hands in the final seconds of the game, they were looking for an overtime. Now, they only had 3 seconds on the clock, and Dirk went for a jump shot but miserably failed due to Haslam's very, very aggressive defense on those last seconds. Now, it was a generally close fight between the two teams, but here are a couple of important points from the game that I have to mention that were game changers. They may be good, they may be bad, but these are the game changers of the game last night. Now, I think the biggest game changer would have to be when those 5 towel boys had to clean up that mess. I mean, in what world do you need 5 towel boys to clean that? I mean, don't you need just one? And they took a solid 5 minutes to clean it. LeBron was sitting down, chilling on the floor. Dirk was like checking if it was sticky on the floor. I mean, wow, guys, 5 towel boys, really? Times have changed for sure. Now, but the real game changer for the Dallas team was Dirk's performance. Now, this might be a very general comment, but with 34 points and 11 rebounds for Nowitzki, he really performed well and was the highlight for the Dallas Mavericks. He was going for the basket with mostly down and up plays. The best thing about Dirk is that he knows how to drive and evade the traffic that the Miami Heat is making for the Dallas Mavericks. However, one of the biggest pitfalls of the Dallas Maverick is that Dirk has no wingman. Sure, Jason Kidd did turn up with 10 assists, while Chandler had 11 rebounds, but you need a man to back you up in getting the ball in the basket. It was a smart move for the coach to put in Terry when Dirk was being pulled out to rest for the meantime, but sometimes you need more than 2 scorers in the court at the same time to get the work done. If you're up against a team like the Heat, who has numerous scorers at the court all at the same time, you have to back up as well. You need to do the work faster and most definitely guaranteed. The next big scorer after Dirk would have to be Terry with 15 and Marion with 10. Now, if you compare that to the next biggest players after Wade, who had 29 points, LBJ only got 17 and Bosch had 18. Now, if you compare that to the following scorers of the Mavs, they performed poorly. Sure, Dirk was able to compensate for the whole team with 34 points, and that's a lot, but obviously it wasn't enough for them to win the game. Last but not the least, the biggest game changer for the Dallas Mavericks would have to be Dirk missing that final shot. If he had that in, the game would have went on to overtime, and well, we don't know what could have happened. A different team could be celebrating right now instead of the Heat. Now we move on to the Heat, and their biggest game changer would have to be that Dirk missed that shot. But you have to give props to Haslam for giving a very, very aggressive defense to stop Dirk from making that jump shot. That could have brought the game into overtime. Now, the second biggest thing that the Miami Heat has is that they have really, really big trust on each other. The fact that the players in the court were alternately scoring was a sign of versatility. They weren't just passing the ball to Wade or LeBron. Everyone else was making scores. This means that they know each other's games well, and that they trusted each other enough to pass the ball to one another. It was shown in Bosch's winning clutch shot. I mean, Bosch is not the most reliable player out there, even if he is part of the big three. I mean, if you're a forward, why do you only have 3 rebounds? That's really low, especially if you're being called a big three. But still, even if someone like Bosch, who's pretty unreliable at times, he was able to perform a clutch shot when the team desperately needed it the most. Now, another player who is overshadowed in the Miami Heat is Chalmers. He has been gold the entire series. Now, Haslem made a very smart decision of passing the ball to Chalmers instead of LeBron, who was being double teamed at the first quarter. Now, this pass to Chalmers resulted into a buzzer beater in the first quarter. Now, this shot may not be a turning point unlike Bosch's shot, but it shows that even off the bench players can step up and score if the big men are caught up in a situation. Chalmers actually ended up with 4 3-point shots in the entire game. Now, the series is now 2-1, and the question is will the Miami be able to gain momentum from this game and turn it to the fourth game and become one more game closer to the finals? Or will the Dallas Mavericks make an NBA history by being the sole champion who lost the third game in an all-one series? Will they be able to come up with a brain-rattling way to change the trend of them running after the Miami Heat and make the Miami Heat run after them instead for the rest of the series? Now, we don't know the answers to these questions, but what we have to do is watch out for Game 4 tomorrow night. But if you have comments or suggestions, or if you have reactions for my comments, you can tweet me here. This is my username. That's twitter.com/Miss Almazan. You can tweet me if you have reactions or negative comments, positive, whatever. As long as I have feedback, that's good enough for me. So we will have to wait and see until tomorrow night what happens in Game 4. See ya. Bye.